The woman on my porch did not ask whether I remembered her. She looked past my shoulder, heard a little girl laughing in the kitchen, and pressed both hands against her coat as if she were keeping her heart from breaking through it. "My name is Mara Vance," she said. "2 years ago I left a newborn outside this house." Behind me, June dropped a wooden spoon and called, "Daddy Pancakes." The woman closed her eyes at the word daddy. I should have shut the door. Instead, I stood there, with one hand on the frame, staring at the stranger who had just returned to the life she had abandoned. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe if you believe family is built by the people who keep showing up when staying is hardest. My name is Caleb Reed. I was 30 years old then, and I owned a small furniture repair shop in Knoxville, Tennessee. I restored old dining tables, church pews, rocking chairs, and anything else people could not bring themselves to throw away. I lived alone in a narrow brick house behind the shop, and I had spent most of my adult life convincing myself that a quiet home was the same thing as a peaceful one. I had never been married. My last serious relationship ended when my fiancée decided my life was too rooted in one place and hers needed to be anywhere else. After that, I stopped making plans that required another person to stay. Then one cold March night, I found a baby crying on my doorstep. She was wrapped in a yellow quilt inside an old wooden bassinet. A silver locket rested beside her, and a note had been tucked beneath one tiny fist. "Her name is June. Please keep her away from Victor Hale. I am sorry. I chose this house because I know you are kind." I read the note 3 times before the meaning reached me. I did not know anyone named Victor Hale. I did not know who had written the words. I did not know why somebody believed I was kind enough to trust with the child, but I knew the baby was cold. I carried the bassinet inside, called emergency services, and phoned my neighbor, Elena Alvarez, a retired nurse who had raised 4 children. She arrived in slippers, took one look at the baby, and ordered me to stop holding her like a cracked lamp. By the time a deputy and a child services worker named Denise Holloway arrived, June was warm, fed, and sleeping against my chest. I could not identify the handwriting, the woman, or Victor Hale. I only knew the baby had settled when I held her. Denise said the nearest emergency foster home was 28 miles away. "She can stay here," I said. She reminded me I was not licensed. I reminded her that I had a clean background check through a youth woodworking program, a house, and Elena standing beside me, ready to testify that I was stubborn enough to learn. "You understand this may be temporary," Denise said. I told her I did. That was the first lie I ever told for June. By sunrise, I had 48 hours to turn a house filled with tools, varnish, and uncovered outlets into a safe home. Elena took over the kitchen. My friend Marcus brought a crib and a car seat. Denise brought forms. A pediatrician said June was healthy, about 10 days old, and strong enough to announce every need to the entire county. The first night, I sat in the rocking chair Elena had dragged from her own guest room and watched June breathe. Every few minutes, I leaned close enough to feel air against my knuckles. I had repaired hundreds of fragile things, but none of them had ever depended on me to know when they were hungry, cold, lonely, or afraid. At 3 in the morning, she began crying and would not stop. I checked the diaper, the bottle, the blanket, and the room temperature. Nothing worked. Finally, I carried her into the shop and walked between the work tables while the security light glowed through the front window. I told her the names of every tool on the wall because those were the only words I could find. "This is a plane," I whispered. "That is a mallet. That one looks dangerous, but only if you do not respect it." She quieted before I reached the clamps. From then on, the shop became part of her world. I built a screened corner where she could nap while I worked. Customers learned to speak softly when they entered. People who came to save a table from their grandparents' house began bringing blankets, books, and clothes their own children had outgrown. June arrived on my porch without a family, and within weeks, half the block had volunteered for the position. The first months were a blur of bottles, diapers, inspections, and sleep measured in minutes. I learned which floorboard to avoid outside June's room, and that fear could live beside love so closely I sometimes could not tell which one had woken me. The police searched hospitals, shelters, cameras, and birth records. No one came forward. The initials MV in the locket led nowhere. Victor Hale was easy to find. He owned Hale Ridge Development, sat on charity boards, and had enough public respectability to make the warning in the note seem impossible. When questioned, he denied knowing anything about June. I completed foster certification and rebuilt my schedule around her. I made a maple crib, then a changing table, then a little chair because I had begun imagining the years ahead. At 6 months, she laughed when I sneezed. At 9 months, she stole paintbrushes from under my workbench. Before she turned 1, I had stopped thinking of myself as temporary. By her second birthday, Denise had started my adoption. The hearing was set for April 18th. The legal process moved more slowly than her childhood. Every hearing seemed to produce another form, another waiting period, another person who needed to decide whether my love met a standard written in a manual. I understood why the rules existed, but understanding did not make them easier. At night, after June was asleep, I sometimes opened the small metal box where I kept the note and locket. I wondered whether MV watched birthdays pass somewhere else. I wondered whether Victor Hale had lied because he truly knew nothing, or because lying was what powerful men did when a question threatened them. Mostly I wondered what I would say when June grew old enough to ask why somebody left her. I never wanted the answer to begin with blame. I also did not know how to tell a child that love could be present and still fail to stay. Mara Vance appeared on my porch on April 3rd. Mara was 26. Her brown hair had been cut unevenly at her shoulders, and worry made her look older. She wore a navy coat despite the warm afternoon and held a canvas bag against her side. "I am not here to take her today," she said. "Today?" She winced. That sounded like a threat. "I am not threatening you. You left a baby outside in March, I know. You wrote 3 lines and vanished. I wrote letters afterward. To the county, to you, to her. None of them reached you. You expect me to believe that? No. I expect you to verify it." June called again from the kitchen. Mara stepped away from the sound instead of toward it. I did not want that restraint to matter, but it did. I sent June through the back gate with Elena, then returned to the porch. "You have 5 minutes," I said. Mara pulled a bundle of unopened envelopes from her bag. Prison markings crossed every corner. "I served 19 months for felony theft and falsifying payroll," she said, "then 4 months in reentry. My conviction was vacated 6 weeks ago." She had worked for Victor Hale, her uncle and guardian, after her mother died. He had moved stolen company funds through accounts in Mara's name. She had signed papers she did not understand, then helped hide what he was doing, because she was afraid of him. When she became pregnant, Victor told her that if she went to prison, he would claim the baby. June's father had died in a construction collapse, leaving a settlement in trust for his child. Victor wanted control of it, and you thought my porch would stop him. You were not a stranger to me. I denied knowing her until she mentioned a broken walnut cradle. Then I remembered a pregnant woman who had visited my shop in the rain. One runner had split. She had counted her money before asking the price, so I charged only for materials. When she returned, she brought 2 lemon muffins. "You said something cared for that long should not be discarded because one part had broken," Mara said. It was the only kind thing anyone had said near me in weeks. The night she left June, Victor's lawyer had arranged for her to surrender the next morning. If she brought the baby, county officials would notify her closest relative. She remembered my address from the repair receipt. "You could have knocked," I said. "I was afraid you would say no." You should have given me the chance. Yes, I should have. Her answer carried no defense, which made anger harder to hold. What do you want? Supervised visits. A chance for her to know who I am. I will not oppose your adoption. She showed me a notarized statement supporting my petition. I came back because I could finally prove Victor framed me, she said. And because I could not let June grow up believing I left because I did not love her. You did leave. I did. I loved her. And I was a coward. Both are true. I gave her Denise's number and told her not to contact me until the county reviewed everything. Before Mara left, she asked one question. Is she happy? It should have been easy to answer. Instead, the question felt like a hand reaching towards something I had guarded for 2 years. She loves pancakes, hates socks, and believes every dog belongs to her, I said. She sings before she knows the words. She's afraid of the vacuum and not afraid of strangers, which worries me. She is happy most days. Mara looked down, smiling through tears. Thank you. I did not do it for you. I know. She walked away carrying the bag of letters. I watched until she reached the corner, then went to Elena's house. June was sitting on the kitchen floor with flour on her nose. She lifted both arms the moment she saw me, and I gathered her up so quickly she laughed. That laugh should have reassured me. Instead, I held her tighter, already feeling the court dates shifting beneath my feet. The hearing was postponed the next morning. Denise explained that a former Hale Ridge accountant had produced records proving Victor ordered the transfers. Mara's conviction had been vacated, and federal investigators were reviewing years of company accounts. The letters were real, 27 of them. Some were addressed to child services, some to the man caring for June. A prison counselor had repeatedly tried to connect Mara with the abandonment case, but the criminal and family files were in different counties under different versions of her name. No one joined them. A clerical failure had swallowed 2 years. Mara can begin supervised visits, Denise said. Your adoption can continue, but the court will reassess. And Victor? Denise hesitated. He petitioned for kinship placement this morning. His filing presented him as June's only blood relative with resources. It omitted the trust, the note, and the federal investigation. He wanted a child because she came with money, and he believed wealth could make that motive look respectable. The first visit took place in a family services room with beige walls and a camera in the corner. I watched through glass while June carried her gray stuffed mouse inside. Mara knelt but did not reach for her. My name is Mara, she said. June looked back at me. I forced a smile. Mara set a small music box on the floor and turned the key. June stepped closer. Mine? If you want it. Daddy made? No, Mara said, glancing toward the glass. Your daddy makes things much better. By the end of the hour, June had ordered Mara to feed plastic carrots to a toy dog. When she left, June waved and called, Bye, Mara lady. Mara kept smiling until the door closed, then folded forward as if grief had weight. The visits continued twice a week. Mara learned June's words, routines, and stubborn rules. At one visit, June threw a puzzle piece and shouted, Go home. Mara placed it beside the board. I'll go when the visit ends. I will also come back when they let me. You sad? June asked. Yes. June pushed the puzzle toward her. Do cow. Mara put the cow in the wrong space on purpose, and June laughed. So did I. Outside the visits, Mara rented a room above a bakery and worked the opening shift. She attended counseling, met with a re-entry advocate, and gave investigators every document she had. She never asked me for money, never arrived late, and never used June to speak to me. That made it harder to dislike her. I noticed details I had not expected to notice. Mara always sat where June could see the door, because she remembered what it felt like not to know who might enter. She brought the same water bottle to every visit and twisted the cap when she was nervous. When June became frustrated, Mara did not rush to distract her. She waited until the feeling passed, then offered help. At the sixth visit, June climbed into Mara's lap to hear the music box again. Mara froze for half a second, then supported her without pulling her closer. I watched through the glass with jealousy so sharp it embarrassed me. Denise saw it. "You can feel replaced without being replaced," she said. "I do not like that sentence. Most useful sentences are unpleasant." On the drive home, June held the music box against her chest. "Mara nice," she announced. I gripped the steering wheel. "Yes, Daddy nice too." The relief that moved through me was ridiculous and complete. A month later, Denise approved an outing at the zoo. Mara arrived carrying a diaper bag packed for a week. "You brought 3 shirts," I said. "She spilled juice on 2 during the last visit. That was 1 visit." I learned fast. At the goat enclosure, June leaned too far over the rail. Mara and I caught her at the same time. I'm one hand on her wrist and one on her jacket. June squealed. Mara released her first and apologized. "You stopped her from falling," I said. "You do not have to apologize for every movement. I am not sure which movements I am allowed." Rain drove us beneath an awning. While June ate crackers, Mara asked what helped when she woke at night. I tell her about a bird lost in a storm that finds a porch light. Does the mother bird come back? I never decided. Mara watched the rain. Maybe the bird learns the porch is home no matter who returns. For the first time, I understood that she shared my fear. Not only losing June, but becoming the reason June lost someone else. The midpoint of our strange new life came in a cardboard box containing Mara's prison letters. The first apologized for leaving June without permission. The 7th described the cradle. The 15th said Mara was learning to crochet a blanket she might never be allowed to send. By the 20th, the handwriting had grown stronger. "I am trying to become somebody she would not be afraid to know." The last was for June. "You may call another person Mama, or no one Mama. You may be angry with me. I will not ask you to make me feel better. I only hope you know I did not leave because you were unwanted. I left because I believed danger followed me, and I had not learned how to ask for help." I sat at the kitchen table and cried for a woman I still did not fully trust. The next morning, I called Denise and asked whether Mara knew the letters had been found. "She knows," Denise said. "What did she say?" "She asked whether you had to read them." That question stayed with me. Mara had not written the letters to win me. She had written them when she believed nobody might ever see them. I took the crocheted blanket from the box. It was uneven, too narrow at one end, and made from 3 shades of blue, because the prison store had run out of matching yarn. I washed it, dried it, and placed it at the foot of June's bed. When Mara saw it during the next visit, she stopped in the hallway. "You kept it. It belongs to June." Mara touched one corner. "I made the first row 6 times. It shows." She laughed softly. That was the first laugh we shared without June causing it. It lasted only a second, but afterward, the room felt less divided. The next visit took place at my house. June ran to Mara with the music box. It broke. A hinge had loosened, so we took it to the shop. Mara held the flashlight while I worked, with June watching from a stool. "Were you afraid of me when I brought the cradle?" Mara asked. "No. I was afraid of everyone. I thought hiding it made me strong. I tightened the final screw. I thought being needed was the same as being loved." Mara met my eyes. Maybe we were both wrong. After that, she stayed for dinner once a week. Elena inspected her like a queen receiving a foreign diplomat, then softened when Mara washed dishes without being asked. June saved things to show her: a leaf, a sticker, a bruised banana shaped like a moon. Mara never called herself June's mother. When June asked, "You my friend?" Mara answered, "I hope so." The more she entered our routine, the less complete it felt without her. The first time Mara came to my shop without a caseworker, she stopped just inside the door as if crossing that threshold required permission. June was napping upstairs and rain tapped against the windows. "I used to imagine this place while I was inside," she said. "The shop, the light over your bench, the smell of cedar, the way you listened when I talked about the cradle, even though I was nobody to you. You were a customer. I was scared, pregnant, and pretending not to be. You noticed the cradle was important, but you did not ask questions I could not answer." I set down the chisel in my hand. "I wish I had asked one more." "What?" "Whether you were safe." Mara looked at the floor. "I would have lied, maybe, but you would have known somebody asked." She came closer to the bench. "Caleb, you did ask, in the only language you knew. You fixed something I thought I had ruined." For a while, neither of us spoke. Then June called from upstairs, and both of us turned toward the sound. That was what loving Mara became. Not a dramatic rescue, not a promise that fear would never return, but the instinct to turn toward the same voice. Later that week, June drew 3 figures in purple crayon. One was tall, one had long hair, and one was mostly a circle with arms. "Who is this?" I asked. "Daddy. Mara. Me." Mara stared at the paper. June added a square around all 3. "House." I expected Mara to cry. Instead, she took a green crayon and drew a door. "Every house needs one," she said. June drew a yellow circle beside it, light. The picture stayed on our refrigerator until the paper curled at the corners. During the hardest days before court, I looked at it more often than I looked at the legal documents. The court would decide what names appeared on paper. June had already decided where each of us stood. She brought coffee to my shop. I repaired a cabinet in her room. She told me Aaron, June's father, had discovered altered safety reports at Victor's company. 3 weeks later, a temporary platform collapsed and killed him. The company called it an accident. Federal investigators had begun looking again. "Victor thinks everything connected to Hale Ridge belongs to him," Mara said, including June's trust. "Does Victor know where you live?" I asked. "Not exactly. Does he know where we live?" Her silence answered me. I stood. "You should have told me. I found out yesterday I wanted one dinner where June was not part of a threat assessment." Fear sharpened my anger. "You do not choose when I learn my daughter is in danger?" Mara went still. "Your daughter." "She is my daughter." "Yes." I signed the statement and tell myself every day that accepting that is best for her, but do not use it as a door you can slam whenever you're scared. June was singing in the next room. "You brought danger back," I said. "I know. Hiding from it made it larger." Mara suspended the home visits until Victor could be located. For 4 days, June carried the music box to the front door and asked whether Mara Lady was lost. "She's finding the safe road," I said. "Get flashlight." Elena found us sitting there. "You sent Mara away. I protected June. Those are not always the same." Fear can make every person look like the door danger used. The next morning, I called Mara and apologized for acting as if June became less hers because she became more mine. "I am still afraid," I said. "So am I. How do we fix that? We tell each other the truth before fear gets there first." At the bakery, Mara told me Victor had offered to withdraw his custody petition if she confessed to stealing the company money and blamed Aaron for his own death. She refused. Victor's response was simple. People could lose children in many ways. We contacted the police, both attorneys, and Denise. Patrols increased. Cameras went up at my home and Mara's building. Then a newspaper printed a photograph of me carrying June outside family court and described me as an unrelated foster parent interfering in a respected family's affairs. Calls flooded the shop. One customer canceled. Another arrived to shake my hand. Mara saw the article and turned off her phone. 6 hours later, I found her at Aaron's grave. "You cannot vanish," I said. "I needed one place where nobody asked what happens next. You could have told me." "Yes." The same answer as the first day. She admitted she had nearly signed Victor's statement to make him leave us alone. "He would not," I said. "I know. I have spent my life sacrificing something before anyone can take it. I gave Victor my silence, the court my freedom, and you my child. I called it love because that hurt less than calling it fear. What will you do? Testify. That puts you at risk. I am allowed to be afraid. I am not allowed to let fear make every decision." I reached for her hand. She let me hold it. "What are we doing?" she asked. "I do not know." That answer used to terrify me. Me too. I kissed her beside Aaron's grave, careful, uncertain, and brief. "Aaron would hate this," she said, then smiled when I pulled back. He hated cemeteries. He said the living should not make decisions in places built for the dead. Then we make the next one somewhere else. We told Denise about us. Mara kept her apartment, the visits remained supervised, and we agreed that romance could not become a shortcut through the custody case. For the next several weeks, Mara and I learned how difficult honesty could be when lawyers were listening. We documented visits, avoided being alone with June outside approved hours, and answered questions that made affection sound suspicious. Still, ordinary closeness found us. She began leaving a cup of coffee on my workbench after her bakery shift. I started walking her home after dinners, even though she lived close enough to see her building from my porch. We talked about the lives we might have had if fear had not chosen so much for us. Mara admitted she had once planned to study accounting because numbers felt orderly. After Victor used numbers to trap her, she could not look at a ledger without hearing a cell door close. I told her I had nearly sold the shop after my father died. Restoring his unfinished chair was the only thing that stopped me. "You stayed for the work," she said. "At first." "And now?" I looked toward my house, where June's bedroom light glowed upstairs. "Now I stay because home is there." Mara slipped her hand into mine. Neither of us mentioned that she was beginning to mean the same thing. Denise listened, then said, "Elena knew. Marcus knew. You two were the last." Our relationship gave Victor's lawyer fresh arguments. He accused Mara of manipulating me. An evaluator interviewed us separately. When she asked why I loved Mara, I first said, "Because she came back." The evaluator waited. I tried again. "Because she never acts entitled when June reaches for her. Because she tells the truth even when it makes her look worse. Because she knows the cost of staying and stays anyway." Mara later said she loved me because I repaired things without pretending they had never broken. 3 days before the custody hearing, federal agents arrested Victor for fraud, obstruction, and witness tampering. We believed the danger had finally shifted. Then his lawyer produced a document Mara had signed in prison granting Victor temporary guardianship if she became unable to care for June. Victor had brought it during her first month inside. He claimed June had been removed from my home and could be sent out of state. Mara panicked and signed. The document had never been used, but his lawyer argued it proved she had chosen Victor over me and that the adoption should be delayed. "You signed it after warning me to keep her from him," I said. "I thought June was already gone." "You trusted him?" "No." I panicked. Months of delay suddenly seemed possible. That night, June woke crying. I carried her to the rocking chair and began the story of the bird. "Bird mommy come," she interrupted. Mara stood in the doorway. "Yes," I said. "Daddy stay?" "Yes." June pointed at Mara. Mara stay? I could have given a careful answer approved by lawyers. Instead, I said, we are all trying. June nodded, satisfied by the answer adults find unbearable, and fell asleep. The hearing began on a gray Monday. I barely slept the night before. At dawn, I found Mara in the kitchen making toast she did not eat. June sat at the table in pajamas, arranging cereal pieces into a crooked line. Court day? She asked. Yes, I said. Like doctor? More talking. June considered that bad. Mara laughed despite herself. Before we left, June handed each of us one cereal piece. For brave. I kept mine in my jacket pocket through the entire hearing. The courthouse smelled of old paper and floor polish. Victor's supporters occupied one side of the room. Elena, Marcus, Denise, and 3 customers from my shop filled the other. The division looked dramatic, but June ignored it. She sat between Mara and me drawing circles on a legal pad until a clerk took her to a nearby room with Elena. When the door closed behind her, the silence felt heavier. Every adult in that courtroom was about to argue over a child who was too young to understand why love needed evidence. Victor appeared by video from jail. His lawyer argued for blood family, attacked Mara's record, and called my bond with her in June emotionally compromised. My attorney presented the note, the letters, and 2 years of foster reports. Denise testified that removing June from my home would cause harm. A federal investigator explained Victor's financial motive and the coercive circumstances surrounding the guardianship paper. Then Mara took the stand. My uncle taught me that love was ownership, she said. If he paid for your food, you owed obedience. If he gave you a home, you owed silence. When I became a mother, I believed the only way to protect my daughter was to give her to someone better and disappear before my failures reached her. She looked at me. I was wrong. Caleb became June's father because he answered her every day for 2 years. I am not asking the court to erase that. I am asking the court to protect it. Her attorney asked what she wanted. I want Caleb's adoption granted. I want supervised contact until I earn more. I want no control of June's trust and no authority to remove her from Caleb's home. I want to become part of my daughter's life without requiring her to lose the father she already has. Victor leaned toward the camera. She is giving away Hale property. The judge's expression hardened. A child is not property, Mr. Hale. The judge rejected his petition, extended the protective order, and approved my adoption with a gradual plan for Mara's contact. I expected victory. What I felt was humility. Mara had returned seeking a place in June's life and used her strongest moment to ensure mine could not be taken. Reporters waited outside. I offered the side exit. Mara looked at June, who was trying to step on every sidewalk crack. No. I am done leaving through side doors. She faced the cameras once. My daughter is safe. Her father is a good man. Our family is not available for public debate. Then we went home. The adoption became final 9 days later. June wore a yellow dress and shouted, "He knows," when the judge asked whether I understood the responsibilities of parenthood. Mara cried from the front row. When the judge signed the order, she invited June to stamp a purple handprint on a commemorative page. June pressed too hard and left paint on the judge's sleeve. The judge looked at the stain, then at me. "Permanent responsibilities," she said. "I understand." Outside, Elena opened a box of cupcakes on the courthouse steps. Marcus had made a banner that read, "Welcome home, June," which was funny because she had lived with me almost her entire life. Mara stood a few feet away, smiling but uncertain, as though celebration belonged to everyone except her. I took June's hand and walked over. "Tell Mara what the judge did," I said. June lifted the paper. "Daddy forever." Mara swallowed. "That is wonderful." June reached for her free hand. "You come cake. It was not a legal order. It mattered more than one." Afterward, I found Mara in the hallway. "You should have sat with us," I said. "She is yours now. She has been mine. And she is yours too. Not in the same way. No, in a new way." We did not rush that new way. Mara stayed above the bakery for 6 months, continued counseling, and earned a bookkeeping certification. Then she rented a house 4 blocks away, close enough for June to ride there in a wagon and far enough that every visit still required intention. The court increased her time gradually. The first time June slept at Mara's house, Mara called twice to ask whether breathing that quietly was normal. Victor pleaded guilty to financial crimes and witness tampering. Investigators confirmed serious safety violations in Aaron's death, though they could not prove the collapse was intentional. June's settlement remained with an independent trustee. Mara never asked for the money. She asked for bedtime on Thursdays. She came over, cooked, and read until June slept. Sometimes she stayed. Sometimes we argued about curtains or my long work hours. Ordinary disagreements felt like proof that neither of us needed to disappear. A year after Mara returned, I restored the walnut cradle again and displayed it in my shop beneath a card. Some things survive because someone decides the broken part is not the whole story. Mara called me sentimental while wiping her eyes. By then, June sometimes called her Mama. The first time it happened during a fever, Mara only smoothed her hair and said, "I am here." In the morning, June returned to Mara. Months later, Mama came back and stayed. I proposed on the same porch where Mara had returned. I asked whether she wanted to keep choosing this home with me. "The first time I came here, I carried everything I was afraid to lose," she said. "The second time I returned because I had to face what I had done. Now I am here because I want to stay." We married in Elena's backyard under strings of lights. June scattered flower petals, then gathered half of them because they were too pretty to leave behind. At the reception, Mara gave me the silver locket. The lavender inside had been replaced by a photograph of the 3 of us. "We should keep it," she said. "It hangs from our bedroom mirror." June is 5. She knows the simple version of her story. She was born to Mara, found by me, and loved by both of us before any of us understood what our family would become. As she grows older, we will tell her more. We will not turn Mara into a villain or me into a rescuer. We will tell the truth in pieces she can carry. Our house is louder now. Mara sings badly while cooking. June corrects both of us with the confidence of a child who has never doubted that her voice belongs in the room. On Thursdays, Elena still arrives without knocking and complains that marriage has not improved my curtains. Some nights, Mara wakes from dreams about the cell or Victor's office. She no longer leaves the room to hide them. She reaches for me, and I remind her where she is. Other nights, I wake from the old dream in which a judge closes a folder and tells me June must go. Mara reminds me that the hallway is quiet because our daughter is asleep in the next room. Healing did not arrive as one grand moment. It arrived as 1,000 ordinary choices not to run. The truth is that Mara made a terrible decision while trapped inside a terrible fear. The truth is that I loved June from the first night and still spent 2 years afraid love could be overruled by blood. The truth is that neither of us became brave alone. Sometimes June asks for the story about the bird in the storm. I tell it differently now. The bird is left beneath a porch light on a cold night. A man opens the door and brings her inside. He teaches her the sounds of home. Later, the bird's mother returns, not to pull her away, but to learn the path to the same porch. In the old version, I never knew how to end it. Now I do. The porch light stays on, the door stays open, and nobody has to earn the right to be loved by disappearing first. If this story moved you, tell me in the comments. Is a parent defined more by blood, by sacrifice, or by the courage to stay?